The Great Hall of Nexera Prime had stood for 40,000 years. Its walls were made of black stone that seemed to drink in the light. 12 massive chairs circled the central platform, each one carved from materials found only on the homeworlds of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. This was the Chamber of the 12, and for longer than most species had existed, its decisions had shaped the fate of countless worlds. High Arbiter Vexthul of the Corvani Empire sat in the largest chair. He was tall and thin, with gray skin stretched tight over angular bones. 4 yellow eyes blinked slowly as he studied the holographic image floating above the chamber's center. It showed a small blue planet, third from an unremarkable yellow star. Located in what the Council considered the outer rim of civilized space. Earth, home of the humans, Vexthul had lived for 300 years. And in all that time, he had never seen a species quite like them. They were young, having achieved faster than light travel only 3 centuries ago. They were weak, possessing a fleet of merely 47 vessels. They were primitive, still using energy weapons that the Corvani had abandoned thousands of years before. And yet, they had refused the Council's ultimatum. The other councillors shifted in their seats as Vexthul raised one long finger toward the hologram. He spoke in a voice that echoed through the chamber like wind through an empty canyon. "They have given us their answer," he said. "The humans reject our terms. They refuse to submit to council authority. They refuse to accept population reduction measures. They have chosen war." Councillor Tethra of the Sindari Collective leaned forward. Her body was made of living crystal, and light bent strangely around her form. The Sindari were known throughout the galaxy as the greatest strategists, having conquered 17 star systems through careful planning and patient execution. When Tethra spoke, others listened. "My analysts have run every possible simulation," she said. Her voice sounded like glass sliding against glass. "We have calculated every variable, considered every scenario. Human defeat is certain within 6 standard rotations. There is no mathematical possibility of any other outcome." The Vorthani ambassador grunted in agreement. He was massive, covered in thick plates of natural armor, and his people had been warriors since before the council existed. "We have exterminated species far more advanced than these humans," he said. "The Pale Ones had technology that could crack planets. The Mindzingers could control entire populations with a thought. Both are now extinct. What chance do these primitives have?" Around the chamber, other councillors voiced their agreement. The Zelkari representative, a being of pure energy contained within a metallic shell, pointed out that humans had only been traveling between stars for 300 years. The Kovani had been doing so for 40,000. The Sindari for 35,000. Even the youngest council member, the Thrall Confederation, had possessed interstellar capability for 8,000 years. Humans were infants. They were nothing. Admiral Keth Oren entered the chamber through the great doors at its far end. He was a Kovani like Vexthul, but where the High Arbiter was thin and scholarly, Keth Oren was broad and scarred. He had served in the military for 200 years. He had commanded fleets in the Andromeda subjugation, where 300 rebel worlds had been brought back under council control. He had led the final assault against the Pale Ones, watching their last city burn from orbit. He bowed his armored head before the council. "High Arbiter, councillors, I come to report that the combined fleet is nearly assembled. 12,000 vessels from all 12 member civilizations. We will be ready to depart for Earth within 2 standard days." Vexthul nodded slowly. "And your assessment of the enemy, Admiral?" Keth Oren's 4 eyes narrowed. "They are brave. I will grant them that. To refuse the Council's terms, knowing what awaits them, requires courage. But courage is not enough. Their 47 ships will be dust within hours of engagement. Their planetary defenses are laughable. Their ground forces number in the millions, while we can deploy billions. Victory is assured. You are confident? Tethra asked. I am certain, Kethora replied. I have studied their history extensively. Humans spend most of their existence fighting among themselves. They have never faced a unified enemy of our strength. They will break quickly, and then we will implement the population reduction measures as planned. The population reduction measures. It was such a clean phrase for what they intended. The council had determined that humans bred too quickly, expanded too aggressively, and asked too many questions. Left unchecked, they might become a problem in 1,000 years. Better to deal with them now, while they were still weak. 70% of the human population would be eliminated. The survivors would be relocated to 3 designated planets and forbidden from developing technology beyond a specified level. It was not cruelty, the council told themselves. It was prudent management. Other species had been handled the same way throughout history. Some had been eliminated entirely when they proved too difficult to control. Very well, Vextel said. The council will vote. All in favor of authorizing military action against the human species. 12 hands, appendages, and energy fields rose in unison. The motion carries unanimously. Admiral Keth Aron, you have your orders. Bring humanity to heal. Tethoran bowed again and turned to leave. As he walked toward the great doors, he allowed himself a moment of anticipation. His name would be remembered for this. The admiral who had conquered humanity. The warrior who had added another species to the list of the broken and the dead. What Kethoran did not know, what none of the council knew, was that humanity had been watching them for a very long time. Human scientists had recovered wreckage from a Corvani scout ship that had crashed on Mars decades ago. Human engineers had spent years studying council technology, learning its secrets, finding its weaknesses. Human strategists had prepared contingency plans for exactly this scenario. The council believed humans were primitive because humans had allowed them to believe it. Every diplomatic contact, every trade negotiation, every cultural exchange had been carefully managed to present an image of weakness. The real humanity, the one that had split the atom and walked on the moon and refused to surrender even when facing extinction, remained hidden in bunkers beneath mountain ranges and in stations orbiting distant moons. That hidden humanity waited. They had hoped this day would never come. They had worked for peace, genuinely wanting to coexist with the older civilizations. But they had always known that hope was not a strategy. The council had voted for war. They expected it to last 6 days. They were wrong. The transmission of the council's declaration traveled at faster than light speeds, reaching Earth within minutes. In a command center buried 3 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, a gray-haired woman named Kate Morrison received the message. She read it once, then read it again, then set down the tablet and looked at the officers assembled around her. They have made their choice, she said quietly. Now we make ours. The war had begun, but it would not end the way the council expected. The bunker had been built during the early days of human space exploration, when the first signals from alien civilizations had been detected. Those signals had been warnings, broadcasts from the council declaring their authority over all intelligent life. The governments of Earth had listened to those warnings and understood what they meant. Submission or death. Those were the only options the council offered. So humanity had started digging. Admiral Kate Morrison walked through corridors carved from solid granite. She was 54 years old, and she had spent her entire adult life preparing for this moment. Every promotion, every assignment, every sleepless night studying alien technology and tactics had led here. The weight of 8 billion lives pressed down on her shoulders as she entered the central command room. 3 people waited for her there. General Nathan Cole stood near the tactical display, his arms crossed over his broad chest. He was a soldier's soldier, having served in conflicts on 3 different planets before being promoted to command Earth's ground forces. Beside him sat Dr. Laura Bennett, chief scientist of the Prometheus Project. She was small and slight, with glasses that she constantly pushed up her nose, but her mind was sharper than any blade. Commander Sam Griffin completed the group. He was young for his rank, only 35, but he had proven himself in a dozen simulated combat scenarios. He would lead the tactical response when the time came. Kate took her place at the head of the table. "The Council has declared war," she said. "Their fleet is assembling. 12,000 ships. Estimated arrival at Earth is 6 days from now." Nathan let out a long breath. 6 days. Against 12,000 ships. He shook his head. "Our public fleet has 47 vessels. Even if we fought perfectly, we would be overwhelmed in hours." "The public fleet is not our only asset," Laura said. She pulled up a holographic display showing the solar system. 17 points of light blinked at various locations. Some were in the asteroid belt. Others orbited distant moons. One was hidden in the atmosphere of Jupiter itself. "The Prometheus Protocol is ready. We have been waiting 18 years for this authorization." Kate studied the display. 18 years of secret construction. 18 years of hiding their true capabilities from Council spies and surveillance drones. The Council believed humans were primitive because every piece of technology they had ever been allowed to see was deliberately outdated. The real advancements, the ones that Laura and her team had developed in absolute secrecy, remained hidden until this moment. "Walk me through it again," Kate said. Laura stood and pointed to the display. "We recovered a Corvani scout ship from Mars in 2089. It had crashed there centuries before. We even knew aliens existed. From that wreckage, we learned everything we needed to know about Council technology. Their slip space drives, their weapons, their power systems. All of it. And we found the weakness," Sam added. Laura nodded. "Council technology is standardized. All 12 civilizations use essentially the same power generation system, developed by the Corvani 40,000 years ago. They never changed it because they never needed to. No one ever challenged them. No one ever looked for flaws, but we did," Kate said. "We did. And we found one. A specific frequency of energy that interferes with their power grid. We call it the dampening pulse. When activated, it neutralizes Council technology completely. Engines, weapons, life support, communications. Everything goes dark." Nathan frowned. "For how long?" "Approximately 24 hours. After that, their systems will reset and come back online. But during that window, they will be completely helpless." Kate considered this. 24 hours of vulnerability. It was not a permanent solution, but it was a chance. And the Harbingers? They can deliver this pulse? Each Harbinger station can project the dampening field across an entire star system. We have 17 of them, positioned to cover the Council fleet's staging points and all 12 homeworlds. When we activate them simultaneously, we can disable every Council military asset in the galaxy at the same moment. The room fell silent. Kate looked at each of her officers in turn. They all understood what this meant. They could end the war before it truly began. They could neutralize the greatest military force the galaxy had ever known. But there was a cost. Nathan spoke first. "If we do this, we become the aggressors. The Council declared war, but they have not fired a shot. We would be striking first. We would be defending ourselves," Sam countered. They made their intentions clear. 70% population reduction. They plan to murder billions of people. We have every right to stop them. "I am not arguing against the action," Nathan said. "I am pointing out that the galaxy will remember this. We will be the species that crippled 12 civilizations in a single strike. Some will fear us. Some will hate us. We will never be seen as the underdogs again. Kate nodded slowly. You are right. But the alternative is worse. If we fight a conventional war, we lose. Even if we win individual battles, they have more ships, more soldiers, more resources. They will grind us down until nothing remains. This is our only chance. She turned to Lavra. The ethical implications. We have discussed them before, but I need to hear it again. Will there be civilian casualties? Lara shook her head. The dampening pulse affects technology, not biology. Council civilians will experience power outages and system failures, but nothing harmful. Life support will fail on military vessels, but the pulse duration is short enough that the crews will survive with emergency supplies. We designed the system specifically to minimize loss of life. Because we are not them, Kate said quietly. We refuse to be them. She stood and walked to the main display. Earth floated there, blue and green and beautiful. 8 billion people going about their lives, most of them unaware that war had been declared. Children in schools. Families sharing meals. Lovers watching sunsets. All of them depending on the decisions made in this room. The Council expects us to fight like they would, Kate said. Ships against ships. Soldiers against soldiers. A war of attrition that they would inevitably win. But that is not how humans fight. We do not play by the enemy's rules. We change the game entirely. She turned back to her officers. Activate the Prometheus Protocol. All 17 Harbinger stations. Coordinate the strike to occur simultaneously across all target zones. Sam nodded and began entering commands into his console. Estimated time to full readiness is 4 hours. We can execute before the Council fleet even departs from their staging points. Do it. As her officers worked, Kate allowed herself a moment of doubt. They were about to change the galaxy forever. 40,000 years of Council dominance would end in a single moment. 12 civilizations that had never known defeat would experience total helplessness. The balance of power would shift in ways no one could predict. But what choice did they have? The Council had offered only 2 options. Submit and watch billions die, or resist and die fighting. Kate refused to accept either. She would find a third way, even if it meant becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that could strike anywhere, at any time, against any enemy. A species that could end wars instead of fighting them. The Harbingers powered up in silence, invisible to Council sensors, waiting for the command that would change everything. 4 hours later, Kate Morrison gave that command. Execute. Admiral Keth Oren stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, the largest warship ever constructed by the Corvani Empire. It stretched for nearly 5 kilometers, bristling with weapons that could crack continents and shields that could withstand the fury of a dying star. Around it, 12,000 vessels of the combined fleet held formation, representing the full military might of 12 ancient civilizations. Kethoran allowed himself a moment of pride. In 200 years of service, he had commanded many fleets. He had crushed rebellions and ended species. But he had never led anything like this. The combined fleet was the ultimate expression of Council power. A force so overwhelming that victory was not a possibility, but a certainty. His tactical officer, a young Corvani named Veth, approached with a datapad. Admiral, all ships report ready status. Slipspace coordinates for the human homeworld are locked. We can depart on your command. Estimated travel time? 6 standard rotations. We will exit slipspace at the edge of their solar system and advance in formation. Their defensive positions will fall within hours. The planet itself will be secured within 2 days. Keth Oren nodded. The humans had scattered their pathetic fleet across their solar system, trying to establish defensive perimeters around their colonies. It was a reasonable strategy for a primitive species. It would not save them. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Prepare to enter slipspace on my mark." He was about to give the command when his communications officer, a Sundari named Christ, suddenly stiffened. Her crystalline body flickered with strange colors that Catherine had never seen before. "Admiral," she said, her voice carrying an edge of confusion, "I am detecting anomalous readings." "Explain." "Slipspace signatures. Multiple contacts. But the origin points make no sense." Her form flickered again. "They are appearing everywhere. Around every staging point. Around every homeworld. Simultaneously." Catharine's four eyes narrowed. "That is impossible. No species has the capability to coordinate slipspace transitions across such distances." "The readings are confirmed, Admiral. 17 separate contacts materializing at this moment across Council space." Before Catharine could respond, reality itself seemed to tear open around the fleet. 17 rifts appeared in the void, each one glowing with energies that the Admiral's instruments could not identify. From each rift emerged a single vessel. They were small, barely larger than Corvani frigates. Their hulls were painted black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. They carried no visible weapons, no apparent defenses. They simply hung there in space, one tiny ship for every 1,000 vessels in the combined fleet. Catherine almost laughed. "These are humans? This is their response? 17 ships against 12,000? He turned to Veth. "Target the nearest vessel. Full weapon spread. Obliterate it." Veth's fingers moved across his console, then stopped. "Admiral, weapons are not responding." "What?" "All weapon systems have gone offline." "I cannot." Veth stumbled backward as his console went dark. "Admiral, I have lost all power to my station." Across the bridge, other officers reported the same thing. Engines offline. Shields failing. Communications dead. The lights flickered once, twice, and then the Eternal Dominion went completely dark. On the bridge of the lead Harbinger vessel, Captain Ben Harris watched his tactical display with grim satisfaction. The dampening pulse had worked exactly as designed. 12,000 Council warships now drifted helplessly in space, their crews experiencing total system failure. Emergency lighting would keep them alive. But they could not fight, could not flee, and could not call for help. His communications officer, a woman named Amy Walsh, confirmed status reports from the other Harbinger vessels. All stations report successful deployment. Target zones Alpha through Sigma are completely neutralized. What about the homeworlds? Amy checked her screens. Identical results. All 12 Council homeworlds have experienced total technological failure. Military installations, orbital defenses, communication networks. Everything is dark. Ben let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. In a single coordinated strike, humanity had neutralized the greatest military power in galactic history. 40,000 years of dominance ended in a moment, but their work was not finished. "Open a channel to Admiral Morrison," he ordered. Kate Morrison's face appeared on his screen moments later. She looked tired but determined. "Report, Captain. Complete success across all target zones. The Council fleet is disabled. The homeworlds are dark. We have approximately 24 hours before their systems begin to recover." Kate nodded. "Casualties?" "None confirmed on our side. Council vessels are operating on emergency life support. The crew should survive the dampening period without significant losses." "Good." Kate allowed herself a small smile. "Proceed to Phase 2. Establish orbital positions over the Council homeworlds. Maintain the dampening field." and prepare to deliver our message." Ben acknowledged the order and ended the transmission. He turned to his crew, men and women who had trained for years without ever knowing if this day would come. They had just changed history, and they knew it. "You heard the Admiral," he said. "Take us to Nexera Prime. It is time to have a conversation with the Council." Back on the Eternal Dominion, Ketharin struggled to understand what had happened. His ship, the mightiest vessel in the galaxy, was now a lifeless hulk drifting through space. His fleet, 12,000 warships strong, was equally helpless. And those tiny human vessels simply held position, watching, waiting. A Vorthani officer approached him in the darkness. "Admiral, what do we do?" Ketharin had no answer. In 200 years of warfare, he had never faced a situation like this. Enemies could be fought. They could be outsmarted. They could be overwhelmed with superior numbers. But this was something else entirely. The humans had not attacked them. They had simply turned them off. "We wait," Ketharin finally said. "We wait and we learn. Because whatever we thought we knew about humans, we were clearly wrong." Across the galaxy, on 12 different worlds, the same scene played out. Council officials stumbling through darkened buildings. Military commanders staring at dead consoles. Civilian populations experiencing sudden, total technological failure. And above each world, a single black ship holding position, demonstrating a capability that should not have existed. The Council had ruled the galaxy for 40,000 years. They had encountered hundreds of species, conquered dozens, exterminated many. They had believed themselves to be the masters of all creation, beyond challenge, beyond question. They had been wrong. In the darkness of his crippled bridge, Ketharin understood something that his superiors had not. The humans were not primitive. They had never been primitive. They had simply been waiting, learning, preparing. And now they had revealed what they could truly do. The war that was supposed to last 6 days had already ended. The question now was what came next. As if in answer, a holographic projector flickered to life on the Eternal Dominion's bridge. It should not have been able to function. Their technology was dead. Yet somehow, the humans had found a way to communicate. A human face appeared in the hologram. A gray-haired woman with steady eyes. "This is Admiral Kate Morrison," she said, "speaking on behalf of Earth and its colonies. I believe we should talk." High Arbiter Vexthal had never known true darkness. The Govani homeworld was lit by 3 suns, and their technology ensured that power never failed. For 300 years, he had lived in a world of constant light and unfailing systems. Now he sat in shadows. The obsidian hall of the council chambers was barely visible in the dim glow of chemical emergency lights. The great holographic displays that once showed star maps and fleet positions were dead. The climate control systems had failed, leaving the chamber uncomfortably cold. The mighty Council of 12, rulers of known space, huddled in darkness like primitives around a dying fire. Counselor Tethera's crystalline body gave off a faint light of its own, enough to see the faces of the other counselors. They looked frightened. Some looked angry. None of them looked confident. How is this possible? The Vorthani ambassador demanded. His voice echoed strangely in the powerless chamber. "We have faced enemies for 40,000 years. None have ever struck our homeworlds. None have ever disabled our fleets. The humans are infants. This cannot be happening." "And yet it is," Tethra replied. Her voice was cold, analytical even now. "My preliminary analysis suggests that the humans developed a weapon specifically designed to target the vulnerabilities in our power generation systems. A frequency that disrupts the energy patterns we all use." "Impossible," the Zelkari representative said. "Those systems have been refined over millennia. There are no vulnerabilities." "Clearly, there are. We simply never looked for them because no one ever challenged us. Vexthul raised one long hand for silence. Arguments will not restore our power. We must understand our situation and respond appropriately. He paused, gathering his thoughts. What is our status? Reports came in from around the chamber. All military forces across Council space were disabled. Communications were down. Transportation networks had failed. The only systems still functioning were basic emergency backups that used alternative power sources. We are completely helpless, Vexthul concluded. For the first time in 40,000 years, the Council has no power. As if waiting for that admission, the holographic projector in the center of the chamber flickered to life. The councilors jumped at the sudden light. A human face appeared, projected through technology that should have been as dead as everything else. Vexthul recognized her from intelligence reports. Admiral Kate Morrison, commander of human military forces. She was older than most human military leaders, with gray hair and lines around her eyes. But those eyes were steady and calm. High Arbiter Vexthul, she said. Counselors, I am speaking to you from Earth. I apologize for the unconventional communication method, but under the circumstances, we had limited options. Vexthul forced himself to respond with dignity. You have made your point, Admiral. Your species possesses capabilities we did not anticipate. But capability alone does not win wars. When our systems are restored, we will. Your systems will be restored in approximately 20 hours. Kate interrupted. The effect is temporary. We designed it that way. The chamber fell silent. The Vorthani ambassador spoke first. You designed it to be temporary? Why would you give up such an advantage? Kate's expression did not change. Because we do not want to destroy you. We want peace. Tethra leaned forward, her crystalline form catching the light of the hologram. You disable our entire civilization, render our military powerless, and you speak of peace? What game are you playing? Human? No game. Let me be direct. 4 hours ago, your council declared war on humanity. Your stated objectives included the extermination of 70% of our population and the permanent subjugation of the survivors. You gave us no alternative. You offered no negotiation. Submit or die. Those were our options. Vexthul nodded slowly. Those are the options we offer all species. It is how the galaxy has functioned for 40,000 years. Yes, we know. We have studied your history extensively. Species after species, civilizations that took millennia to develop, wiped out or enslaved because they could not resist your combined might. The Pale Ones, the Mindsingers, the Forgotten People of Andromeda, hundreds of others whose names you have erased from history. Kate paused, letting her words settle. We chose a different path. What path? Vexthul asked. We refused to accept your terms. But we also refused to fight a war we could not win. Instead, we developed the capability to end wars before they begin. What you experienced today was the Prometheus Protocol. 17 synchronized strikes that neutralized your military forces across the entire galaxy. The Zelkari representative made a sound of disbelief. You expect us to believe that you planned this? That humans, with your 3 centuries of space travel, outmaneuvered civilizations with 40 millennia of experience? Kate smiled slightly. We are quick learners. And we had strong motivation. When someone threatens to murder your children, you find ways to protect them. Vexthul considered her words. There was no bluster in her voice, no gloating. She spoke like someone stating simple facts. And the facts were undeniable. Humanity had done the impossible. What do you want? He asked finally. What I said. Peace. We did not disable your fleet to conquer you. We did it to demonstrate that war between us would be pointless. We can neutralize your military forces whenever we choose. But we do not want to. We want to coexist. Tethra spoke sharply. And what are your terms for this coexistence? Kate listed them simply. Recognition of human sovereignty over their current territory. A non-aggression pact between humanity and all council species. Establishment of diplomatic relations and fair trade agreements. And one additional condition. You will end your practice of exterminating or subjugating younger species. The galaxy is vast. There is room for everyone. The cycle of conquest and destruction ends now. The chamber erupted in protest. The Vorthani ambassador roared about tradition and necessity. The Zelkari representative argued that young species were dangerous if left unchecked. Others shouted about the natural order of things, about the rights of superior civilizations. Kate waited for the noise to die down. You have conquered the galaxy for 40,000 years, she said quietly. You have destroyed more species than you can count. You have never faced consequences for your actions. That ends today. Not because we hate you, but because we refuse to become you. She leaned forward slightly. Our weapons can disable your technology. But we could have done more. We could have built weapons that destroy rather than disable. We chose not to. We could have struck without warning and watched your crews suffocate in dead ships. We chose to ensure they would survive. We could be having this conversation over the ruins of your homeworlds. Instead, we offer you peace. Vexthel understood then what he was facing. Not an enemy to be defeated, but something new. A species that had developed the power to destroy, but chose to restrain itself. A species that could have been monsters, but refused in 40,000 years. The Council had never encountered anything like it. What happens if we refuse? He asked. Kate's expression did not change. Then your power returns in 20 hours, and you rebuild your fleet. Perhaps in a century, you try again. And when you do, you will find that we have continued to develop new capabilities. Do you really want to discover what we can build in 100 years? The chamber fell silent. The choice is yours, Kate said. War without end, or peace without conditions. We hope you choose wisely. The hologram flickered and vanished, leaving the council in darkness once again. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly, Vexthel raised his hand. We will vote, he said. All in favor of accepting the human terms? One by one, 12 hands rose into the dim light. For the first time in 40,000 years, the council had surrendered. 6 months had passed since the war that lasted 4 hours. The galaxy had changed more in that time than it had in the previous 1,000 years. Admiral Cathoran stood on the observation deck of the Kovani diplomatic station, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath him. The blue planet looked peaceful from orbit, clouds swirling over green continents and dark oceans. It was hard to believe that this small world had humbled the greatest powers in the galaxy, that he was no longer a military commander. After the failure of the combined fleet, he had been reassigned to the newly formed Interspecies Relations Division. Some saw it as a punishment. Catherine saw it as an opportunity to understand the species that had defeated him without firing a single shot. A human approached him, a young woman with short brown hair and an easy smile. Her name was Megan Cross, and she served as his liaison officer. In the months they had worked together, Catherine had come to consider her something close to a friend. She was patient with his questions, honest in her answers, and never treated him as a defeated enemy. Admiral, she said, are you ready for the ceremony? Catherine nodded slowly. Today was the formal signing of the Galactic Accord, the treaty that would reshape relations between humanity and the Council. Representatives from all 13 civilizations would witness the moment when humans officially joined the galactic community, not as subjects, but as equals. I have been thinking, he said, about how you accomplished what you did. We have discussed it many times, but I still do not fully understand. Megan moved to stand beside him at the viewport. What troubles you? Your species is 3 centuries old. Mine is 40,000. We have had more time to develop, to refine our technology, to perfect our strategies. By every measure, we should have been superior. Yet you defeated us utterly. Megan was quiet for a moment. May I speak honestly? Always. Your people stopped growing a long time ago. You achieved dominance over the galaxy, and then you stopped. Your technology is refined, yes, but it has not fundamentally changed in millennia. Your strategies are effective, but they are the same ones you have always used. You became comfortable. Catharn considered this. And humans? Humans have never been comfortable. We evolved on a dangerous world, surrounded by predators, facing harsh climates and scarce resources. We learned early that standing still meant dying. So we never stopped moving, never stopped adapting, never stopped looking for better solutions. She turned to face him. When your people encountered a problem, you had 40,000 years of proven solutions to draw from. When we encountered a problem, we had to invent something new. That desperation became our greatest strength. But the Prometheus Protocol, Catharn said, the technology behind it is beyond anything we have developed. How did you create it in only 3 centuries? Megan smiled. We had help. We found a crashed Corvani vessel on Mars decades before we made first contact. We studied it. We learned from it. And then we asked a question your engineers never thought to ask. What if there was a flaw? We assumed our technology was perfect. Nothing is perfect. Everything has weaknesses. The difference is whether you look for them. We looked because we had to. Because the alternative was extinction. Catharn nodded slowly. It made sense, in a way that wounded his pride, but satisfied his curiosity. The Council had grown complacent in their power. Humanity, facing annihilation, had been forced to evolve. There is something else I do not understand, he said. Your Admiral Morrison. When she had us at her mercy, she offered peace. She could have demanded anything. Tribute, territory, the dissolution of the Council itself. Why did she ask only for equality? Megan's expression grew more serious. Because we have seen what happens when the powerful abuse the powerless. Our history is full of empires that conquered and enslaved, and eventually collapsed under the weight of their own cruelty. We did not want to repeat those mistakes. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Admiral Morrison designed the Prometheus Protocol to be non-lethal for a reason. Every weapon we built could have been made to kill, but we chose restraint. We wanted to prove that strength and mercy could exist together. That you do not have to be a monster to defeat one. Catharn absorbed this. In his 200 years of military service, he had never considered mercy a strategic option. Enemies were crushed or eliminated. That was the natural order. Or so he had always believed. Your species is strange, he said finally. You possess the power to destroy us, yet you choose not to. You could have demanded our surrender, yet you asked for partnership. In all my years, I have never encountered anything like you. Megan laughed softly. That is probably why we are still alive. If we had been predictable, you would have known how to beat us. They walked together toward the grand hall, where the ceremony would take place. Representatives from 13 civilizations filled the chamber, a sea of varied forms and colors. Humans stood among them now, equal partners in a galaxy they had helped reshape. Admiral Kate Morrison stood at the central podium. She looked tired but satisfied, like someone who had carried a heavy burden for many years and finally set it down. Beside her stood the other members of Joint Interstellar Command, along with leaders from 100 human nations. Behind them sat the Council representatives, including High Arbiter Vexthol. Kate began to speak. 6 months ago, humanity faced extinction. The Council declared war on us, expecting an easy victory. They had 12,000 ships. We had 47. They had 40,000 years of experience. We had 3 centuries. By every calculation, we should have lost. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the assembled delegates. We did not lose because we refused to fight on your terms. We refused to accept that overwhelming force was the only path to victory. We refused to believe that the old ways were the only ways. And we refused to become the kind of conquerors we were fighting against. Vex still listened with an expression that might have been respect. Around him, other council members wore similar looks. They had expected to be standing over human ruins by now. Instead, they sat as equals in a human space station, listening to the species they had underestimated. Kate continued. The treaty we signed today establishes a new order. Not domination, but cooperation. Not conquest, but coexistence. Humanity joins the galactic community as partners, and in return, we ask only that the cycle of violence end. No more extinctions. No more subjugation. The future belongs to all of us, not just the powerful. She stepped back from the podium as applause filled the hall. Humans and aliens clapping together, a sound that had never been heard before in all the long history of the galaxy. Cathoran found himself clapping as well. He did not fully understand these humans. Perhaps he never would. But he was beginning to believe that the galaxy was better for their presence. Megan appeared beside him again. What do you think, Admiral? Cathoran watched Kate Morrison shake hands with Vexthol, former enemies now bound by treaty. I think, he said slowly, that we spent 40,000 years believing we were the masters of creation. We were wrong. We were merely the first. The humans are something else entirely. What are they? Cathoran considered the question. The future, he said finally. They are the future. And I am grateful that they chose to share it with us rather than take it for themselves. Above them, through the transparent ceiling of the Grand Hall, stars burned in the endless dark. The galaxy stretched out in all directions, vast and ancient and full of mysteries. For 40,000 years, it had been shaped by conquest and fear. Now, perhaps, it would be shaped by something better. The war had lasted 4 hours. The peace, humanity hoped, would last forever. And somewhere in the Great Hall, Kate Morrison allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. They had done the impossible. They had saved their species without becoming monsters. The hard work of building a better galaxy was just beginning, but that was a challenge she welcomed. After all, that was what humans did. They faced impossible odds. They found new solutions. And they never, ever stopped trying. The ceremony ended. The delegates dispersed. And across the galaxy, a new era began.